Lesson 9-4 is on finding the area of triangles and trapezoids. Triangles and trapezoid, their formulas are pretty similar to each other, but you have to understand some of the vocabulary. Here, if we remember back to finding the area of a parallelogram, we took our base times the height. Well, if you look at this parallelogram, if I cut a diagonal, one of those, that diagonal forms two different triangles. So if the area of the whole parallelogram is found by doing base times height, if I want to find the area of the triangle, which is half of that parallelogram, I would take base times height divided by 2, or 1/2 times base times height. Either one of those works. I prefer to write my formula as A equals base times height divided by 2. But it's up to you, however you want to write it. Doesn't matter to me, just as long as you write it every single stinking time that you solve those problems. Okay, so moving on to some of the problems, let's go ahead and fill in some of these blanks. I like how these blanks help you organize your workspace. The base here on my triangle, if I remember back to my little chair trick, the chair sits on the floor and the floor is your base. The back of the chair is the height. To find the area, I'm going to do 1/2 times my base, which is 5, times my height, which is 2. 5 times 2 is 10, and half of 10 is the same thing as 10 divided by 2. That would be 5. And since I'm finding the area, it would be 5 units, since I don't know it, units squared. Area always has square units. So the area of the triangle is 5 units squared. Okay, so the next one is a base of 9 and a height of 8. That should be a B. So to find the area, I'm going to do 1/2 times 9 times 8, or 9 times 8 divided by 2. 9 times 8 is 72, and half of 72 is 36. So the area of the triangle is 36 units squared. You want to make sure that you have your units listed on your answer, otherwise it's not quite correct. Okay, let's do 3, 4, and 6 together, and then you need to do 5 and 7. Alright, so 3, we're going to write down the formula, area equals base times height divided by 2. I want you to write that down every single stinking time, because the more you write that formula down, the less you're going to have to study it, because every single time you write that formula down, you're committing it to memory. The more you write it down, the more you're going to remember it, the less studying you have to do in the end. So really, it's a win-win for you. Okay, so base is 6, height is 7. So we're going to do 6 times 7 divided by 2. 6 times 7 is 42. And 42 divided by 2 is 21 inches squared. 21 inches squared. Number 4 is a triangle that's kind of laying on its side. So we really want to be careful about identifying what's the base and what's the height. We're going to write our formula down. Area equals base times height divided by 2. Then I'm going to identify what my base and my height is. I'm going to draw my chair. My chair is sitting on the floor, which is my base. The back of the chair is my height. Plug that into my formula, so I'll do 7 times 3 divided by 2. 7 times 3 is 21. Then I have to divide that by 2. 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. My units are centimeters, and I'm talking about area, so my final answer is 10.5 centimeters squared. I want you to do number 5 on your own. Hopefully you're listening to this with sound, but if you're not, I'm writing it down. Do on your own. We will check this tomorrow in class. Remember, I'm looking for a full and complete set of notes. Number 6. Number 6, we are trying to find the area of a triangle, but this time our triangle is not drawn. But they give us information here. They tell us that the base is 16 meters and that the height is 10 meters. I can still do my formula, base times height divided by 2. So my base is 16, my height is 10, and I'm dividing that by 2. 16 times 10 is 160, divided by 2 gives me 80 meters squared. Make sure when you're showing your workspace, you're writing the formula down, just like I did, plugging in my numbers, multiplying those two numbers together, and then your answer. Just because you get to use a calculator does not excuse you from writing your workspace down. All right, so go on and do number 7 on your own. I'm going to abbreviate that with OYO. So we'll check number 6, or number 5 and number 7 tomorrow in class. Now let's move on and find the area of trapezoids. If you'll notice something really quick about the formula of trapezoid, you'll see that you are going to be dividing by 2 again. Now I don't like how they write this formula down. There's nothing wrong with how they have it written, it's just not something that I like to see. So what I do is I write it as area of a trapezoid is base 1 plus base 2 times height, all divided by 2. Now you'll notice the last 2 formulas that we've done, triangles and trapezoids, we're dividing the big number by 2. And triangle starts with the letter T, trapezoid starts with the letter T, and the number 2, when you spell it out, starts with the letter T. So when you see triangles, trapezoids, you need to divide by 2. Now this business with base 1 and base 2 can be a little confusing. And the reason why we have 2 bases is because if you think about it, it's kind of like a triangle that had its head chopped off. Poor guy. So instead of coming to a point, there's this other base here. If I draw my chair, I have the chair here, but I could have a chair up here too. So the chair could be sitting in 2 different places. That's why we have a base 1 and a base 2. It doesn't matter which one you label as B1 or B2 as long as you recognize that this base and this base, the 2 sides that are parallel to each other that form those railroad tracks, those are bases. And the back of the chair is your height. So you're going to add your bases together, multiply by your height, and divide by 2. It's kind of the same thing, base times height divided by 2, like a triangle, except that since you have 2 bases, you have to add them together first. We're going to do numbers 10 and 12 together. I want you to do 11 and 13 on your own. We will check those as part of your notes. Number 10, we have to be able to identify the different parts, but let's go ahead and write our formula down. Area equals base 1 plus base 2 in parentheses times height divided by 2. Let's label those parts here. First, by identifying my chair. So my chair sits on the floor. That's base 1. And also in a trapezoid, the other side could be sitting on the ceiling, so that 5 feet is base 2. Now you could have labeled 5 feet as base 1 and 9 feet as base 2. It doesn't matter. Now that back of the chair is your height. And in this case, the height is actually a side of my trapezoid, and that's okay. But you'll notice some of the others, like a number 11, the height is not actually part of the trapezoid. The reason the height is part of the trapezoid, it's actually a side, is because this is what we call a right trapezoid. All right, once we've written down our formula, identified the parts of my trapezoid, I'm going to go ahead and plug in my numbers. So I have to add my bases together, 9 plus 5 times my height of 6 divide by 2. I'm going to do 9 plus 5 is 14 times 6, divide it by 2. Type all those numbers into the calculator. 14 times 6 is 84. Then divide by 2, and I get 42 feet squared. I'm still talking about area of a trapezoid, so I need to have my units squared. Go ahead and try number 11 on your own. I'm going to move on to question number 12. Question number 12 is a trapezoid that's kind of on its side, is pointing in a different way, so you have to be careful about identifying the different parts. Let's start by writing my formula. Base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. Let's find my chair. My chair is actually sitting kind of sideways. So the chair is sitting on the floor, so the 7 centimeters is base 1. And then also in a trapezoid, the top can also be the bottom of the chair. So that would be 3 centimeters is base 2. The back of my chair is my height. Let's plug in those numbers. Base 1 is 7. Base 2 is 3, so 7 plus 3 times my height is 4 divided by 2. 7 plus 3 is 10 times 4 divided by 2. 10 times 4 is 20. 20 divided by 2, 10 times 4 is 40. 40 divided by 2 is 20 centimeters squared. So you'll notice I followed all the steps. I wrote down my formula, plugged in my numbers, simplified a little bit. You don't have to simplify all the way. Then typed it in my calculator and found my answer. Okay, you need to try number 13 on your own. Don't be too... It's going to be okay. I know it's not a picture of a trapezoid. You can always draw a picture if you want to. But you know your bases, you know the height. All you need to do is plug it into the formula, write it down, and simplify it. Good luck.